Welcome to Beneath Your Beautiful, where guests share stories of adversity and perseverance, which inspire, encourage, and challenge us. We embrace these tough conversations, intimately exploring our loves, fears, and hopes with a delicious combination of depth and lightness.
I'm Nirvana Marie. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, as well as I had a bonus spinal cord tumor that was mostly removed. I am working at helping other people with invisible and chronic illnesses. My big thing that I want to do is help other people get back to their baseline and then beyond that.
What did you say you have? What was the first thing?
Ehlers-Danlos syndrome.
And will you explain that?
So Ehlers-Danlos is a connective tissue disorder that can affect any and all of the body because your whole body is made up of connective tissue. The kind I have is the hypermobile type, which is less debilitating than some of the forms of it, but it is also a lot less commonly diagnosed or known about. Took me until I was 32 to get diagnosed, even though I had, now knowing what it is, very obvious symptoms at a very early age.
About what age was it noticeable?
I had a lot of the smaller, more subtle symptoms starting super young, like pre-kindergarten.
What are the symptoms?
Some of the more generalized ones, I started getting headaches around kindergarten. I started having stomach issues pretty early on, things like sensitivities to certain things. I can't touch velvet. And of course, I was a child of the 80s. So my mom would try and put me in these like velvet Christmas dresses, and I would just scream and cry like I couldn't handle it. But I didn't realize what was going on at that time. It really went into hyperdrive when I turned 12, which is something that I've learned is pretty common because of hormones. So that's when a lot of my hypermobile stuff started. And so with the hypermobility, the joints want to naturally overextend. So the muscles are constantly trying to keep them in place and are then overworking themselves pretty bad.
And what does that look like for you?
I started in physical therapy when I was 12, I think, for the first time. It started with my left shoulder and up through my neck. And there's some really fun snap, crackle, pop grinding noises that happen. It was leading to a lot of headaches, a lot of muscle spasms. And then I also additionally have, and again, didn't realize it till later, one of the sister illnesses, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which messes with blood pressure and heart rate. So I got kicked out of gym in middle school. My body actually was more or less shutting itself off. I used to love to run, but when we started doing the fitness days in 7th grade, I was passing out after. And I was very tiny because another part of EDS is the body doesn't absorb as much as you're taking in. So even though at the time I actually was eating a ton, I was only 75 pounds till I was 15.
Oh, wow.
So I ended up getting kicked out of gym and progressively got worse with all of the symptoms. When it was my sophomore year of high school, I remember I just finished up a math test and I had been like scribbling some really emo words into my agenda. So I wasn't feeling good, and then got up and left for the break. And I passed out into one of my friends, woke up kind of in and out in the nurse's office. They had to call an ambulance. My blood pressure had just totally bottomed out. Then I wasn't able to come back into school for a little bit because at that point, my brain also started kind of getting a little foggy with the issues with oxygen to the brain. So I was able to get a incorrect diagnosis of reflex neurovascular dystrophy, which is another neurological malfunction. Some of it worked as far as the rehab went. I had to go over to Seattle to the Seattle Children's Hospital for about a month to relearn to walk and talk, and then went back to school.
What was that like, though, for you?
It was very difficult. The fix for that was that they overworked your system to the point where it just gave up and kind of rebooted itself.
Wow.
So it was like 8 hours a day of physical therapy. And I mean, at that point, I couldn't even stand. They barely let me lie because I was so weak and not doing well at all. And so I went in a wheelchair. They were holding me up with a gait belt on a treadmill. Like there was 3 other girls that went through the program with you. And it was, we would just all be in there in tears.
Yeah.
We were all about ages 14, 15, 16, and just in tears, forcing our bodies to do way more than they wanted to do. And it was kind of hell.
Yeah.
It was mildly effective in that, like, I did get stronger. I did get a little bit better, but it was just enough to kind of like shock the system, reboot it just for it to kind of go back down again. But it took some time for it to refall apart.
Is it genetic?
It is. It's a genetic disorder, and it can present differently and at different severities with slightly different symptoms, even within the same family. I can trace it back through my mom, who has it pretty heavy like I do, my grandma, who had it lighter, my great grandmother, who had it heavier. And then my little sister is starting to show signs. Took her a little longer for some of that to show. But my nephew, who is 12 now, has been he mentions just random things that he talks to me about, and then noticing different twitches and stuff that he kind of has started having now. I'm fairly certain he has it as well.
So what can you do about it?
Well, it's not something that has a cure, really has many people that know much about it, to be honest. I got my diagnosis very randomly. I was actually at a musical festival up in Canada and had been in the little like cripple camp that they have closer to the entrance so that people with disabilities can actually go and be able to get back to their camp safely and rest when they need to. And there was another gal there who, she had some medical issues, but her husband at the time also had some, and she had actually gone to an EDS support group thinking that might be something that one of them had. So she had asked if she could pinch me, because with EDS, the people that are super, super stretchy in like circus shows, they have a form of EDS.
Oh, okay.
And so my skin is a little bouncier. It's softer, bouncier than typical people, especially my age, would be. And so she asked if she could pinch me. She did. And she's like, I think you have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And I had to wait to get back into cell phone reception to be able to Google like crazy, and started looking into it and was like, oh my God, like, I think this could be it. Like, I think this could be what's actually wrong. And I had to get an appointment with a geneticist, who the only one that I could find for a specialist for it was down in Oregon, in Bend, Oregon. There's not definitive testing for Ehlers-Danlos, but there's a couple like flexibility tests that you can do mixed with the symptoms that are kind of let them know that you've been experiencing. And for me, within a couple minutes because of the way that he has his lighting in his office. He could tell by the way that my pupils reacted that I did have some form of dysautonomia, which is what the POTS is, a form of dysautonomia. So it was just like one of those where for the first time in my life, like I didn't have to get really defensive as far as like, but I think this is it. I didn't even have to fight. He just was like, yeah, I think this is what you have. He did some of the testing and he's like, yep, I'm giving you this diagnosis, which I don't know if many people realize how important it is to have an actual diagnosis on your chart when you have chronic issues.
Because people think you're coming in for pain pills and stuff. Is that why?
Pain pills or trying to cheat the system in some way, shape, or form. Now I can literally just say, hey, I have these conditions. Please act accordingly. Even if you don't know what they are conditions that have been diagnosed. These are my tendencies. Please take those seriously.
Your mom has this also, but if you have just been diagnosed, she must not have been.
She has not been officially diagnosed, no. I said there is one geneticist. He is down in Oregon, does not take insurances. So none of the rest of my family actually has official diagnosis, but given the details I had told the geneticist when I was diagnosed, he said, if they're presenting symptoms, that's going to be where you got it from. It's genetic. It can happen as a mutation, and you can be like the first in your family to have it kind of thing. But typically they see it's going to be genetically passed.
And then on top of that, you had cancer?
Not cancer. I had a tumor wrapped up in my spinal cord.
Okay. I don't think I ever knew that tumor didn't equal cancer.
It doesn't always. It can be benign.
Oh, right.
The big issue for me is that the placement of it. So it had wrapped up in my cord and was growing, causing compression on the spinal cord, which can then lead to paralyzation completely. And so when they found it, I was actually working on other symptoms that are kind of EDS related with the hypermobility, like my hip wasn't staying in place. I had gotten an MRI. I had come in for the results and they were like, we think there's a cyst, no big deal. Like, we just need to do some additional imaging. And I was like, okay, did the additional imaging. And they're like, yeah, that's a tumor. And it was like a weird Charlie Brown moment, like with the adults do the mwah, mwah, mwah noise. Like, yeah. I heard tumor and then like everything went kind of blank. And this is before I had the EDS diagnosis too. It was a lot. And then it took about 2 weeks for them to find a surgeon willing to take the case. He saw me and then said, I can get you in next week. We can't wait any longer. And all I could say back was, but my birthday.
What birthday was it?
26.
That's a lot to deal with in the first 26 years.
Yeah. And they didn't prepare me very well for the after effects of that surgery.
What were they?
When I woke up, I couldn't feel waist down. And then it took about a year to get sensation back to my knees.
Oh, wow.
Another year to get to my ankles. And I'm still working on my feet.
And that's been how many years? It's the surgery.
10 in February, this last February.
I met you. You offered to model for me. I had no idea. And what I really appreciate is that you're not letting it stop you. All the issues that you have, you're still going out there and doing your stuff.
I definitely am not able to do it with the frequency or like extreme craziness as I used to, but I definitely feel like it's super important to hold on to elements that make you feel like yourself.
Right.
And there was a grieving process of letting go of who I was and who I thought I was going to be, because I can't be that person.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not practical. But I can be a morphed form of that person, still retaining the elements that I liked out of it and just kind of figuring out how to make them still work for me. And modeling was always something that I used to do a lot more of it more often, and actually have an agent and do a lot of promotional stuff and get paid and stuff. But it was always more something I did for me, especially the shoot portion was the creative element of it. It just made me feel like, I don't know how to explain it. There's an element of like being able to be removed from your life, from who you are, and like play in this other realm.
Yeah.
And it, like have that experience, and then you can go back in, but you've been energized by like who you've got to be for a minute. And I didn't want to lose that. I still enjoyed doing that. It's kind of nice being able to get to shoot. It's harder because I do have limitations. You know, I still can't walk in heels yet.
Me either.
But I've been trying to find ways. I've super appreciated getting to shoot with you and having you be so accommodating to like what I can actually do.
No, I love it. And also, I really think of it as play. That's why I think we work well together, because I'm just having fun and seeing what happens.
I had asked my mom when I was little about being able to play dress up, or how long I could play dress up. And she's like, you can do it forever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just feel like I really ran with that. I'm in the process of moving currently and actually getting all my stuff out of storage. So I'm looking forward to sending you pictures of some really epic outfits that I have available for us to go find some cool locations and just play.
Yeah, let's do it.
Definitely one of the biggest things that I think is important. I think no matter like what stage you're at or who you are, I think retaining that element of play just naturally enhances life.
Yeah, I think if you're built this way anyway. I know some left-brained people who might not agree with this.
I have been very adamant about never losing that sense of wonder, that ability to be like, ooh, like what is going on? Like I just recently had the chance to go to Meow Wolf in Denver. And
what is that?
So it's this multi-level, ridiculous art installation world. There's like small art installations, as well as like you go through passageways and there's worlds. And I felt like I could have played in there forever.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to take something and create out of nothing, or even just being able to appreciate somebody else's ability to do that, I think is really, really amazing.
You seem to be very mature for your age. You're early 30s, right?
36.
Oh, you're 36. You said that. I think that because you're saying, this is what I can do, this is who I am, without wishing you were somebody else or something else, wishing that it wasn't this way, not doing that, that's why you're not suffering, even though you clearly have reason to.
I mean, I feel like suffering happens.
Mm-hmm.
I get really bad days. I can have bad weeks where I'm trapped in bed and I don't get to do anything fun.
Yeah.
But one thing that I tell myself during those days, literally tell myself out loud, is this is temporary. You're fine. You've got this. Because it does pass. You know, things come in waves. You know, things can be really, really hard for people that are more capable than somebody that has something more chronic that they're dealing with. But for the times that I do feel good, I really enjoy those moments.
A lot of people don't know that, who are 100% able-bodied and are still suffering more in their heads.
It's taken a lot of work, a lot of mindset work to get to that place.
Yeah.
I definitely, especially through my younger years, teens into early 20s, there was some hardcore depression there. Some, things are never getting better, or like, I can't do these kind of days. But it does really take a level of appreciating what you do have, because you don't know when you're going to lose that or how you could lose that.
I just appreciate that you're so many years in chronic pain and still have a positive outlook. If somebody is suffering from chronic pain, and you said you've done the work, what would you suggest to somebody else? How would you help somebody?
I'm working on developing a course right now.
Oh, awesome.
A lot of it is honestly focusing on self-care, both physical, mental, and then relationships. I know relationship isn't necessarily self-care, but in a way it is. There's your physical self-care, things you have to do, medications, hygiene, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's what I've been calling so far, for lack of better name, advanced self-care, which are the things you need to do to make yourself feel like yourself. For me, I got to keep up on my hair, got to keep up on my eyebrows. Even on my worst days, if my hair looks good, I just feel better when I look in the mirror. I feel like I look less sick.
Yeah.
And then with the mindset work, it's something that is going to be a slower process for people. There are a lot of different elements that you can bring into it. Like, I know I've got like mantras that I say to myself, like literally saying them out loud when I'm finding myself thinking certain ways. There's a lot of like grieving like who you were, and then like working on that rebuild of who you can be, who you want to be, and really having the gratitude on a daily basis with what you can do. And then with relationships, it's, even though it might be very, very difficult, but it's building up the good ones and letting go of the ones that aren't serving you. Because if you're fighting that, you're going to be fighting yourself and losing yourself deeper and deeper into that. I don't know how personal we want to get with that, because I haven't talked about it before really anywhere, but I just went through a divorce. Mm-hmm. And that's when I started doing a lot of the mental work, because I was falling apart. I mean, I had already kind of come to the realization with a lot of stuff about myself, or at least thought I had come to quite the ways through it. But coming out of it, realizing like how much I lost myself, how much I stopped putting myself first in life, and being worried about how somebody else is feeling, doing, thinking, perceiving what I'm doing, when it didn't serve me to think that way. And so that's when I did like the biggest rebuild of myself. The first book that I read when I was like, I need to start working on my mindset actively, it's by Jen Sincero, and it's called You Are a Badass: How to Stop Doubting Your Greatness and Start Living an Awesome Life. And I started taking elements of that, and then just started pulling in a bunch of other books. And I started getting really into just understanding the different ways that my brain functions and does things to relate to life, to make things easier for myself and be able to better express my needs, to be able to ask for what I need from other people. That was also something I never, for the last while, had not felt like I could do in my own home.
How long were you married? Do you mind me asking?
12 years.
I was with my first husband for 12 years.
Yeah.
It was a good learning experience.
Yes. The first part of it was learning about myself to try to explain myself and relate to him better. So it really wasn't totally about my self-learning. But in doing so, I started realizing like how much the compatibility was just not there. And so I was fighting a losing battle on a lot of levels. And all of that energy that I was putting into that was detracting from the energy I could have spent working towards the things that I want to do for me physically, emotionally, mentally, and on getting back to a point in my life where I can really help other people the way I would like to be able to again.
You're going to help other people with this course. How are people going to find the course?
Currently, I do have a group on Facebook, or a page on Facebook rather, called The Mighty Zebra.
Okay.
The zebra is the mascot for Ehlers-Danlos syndrome because of the quote that doctors are taught in school that if you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras, meaning, don't think of the rare, weird stuff. Think of the normal stuff, but zebras are a thing. Yeah. And then also with the stripes being different, zebra to zebra, person to person, it's not always the same. So I've been working on developing the course. I can help more than just people with EDS.
Yeah.
I feel like, anybody that has a chronic condition that's dealing with something that they're having flare-ups, they could benefit from it. I know for me, these are a lot of things that I start to do when I'm trying to come out of a particular flare-up or something goes wrong, like when I caught myself on fire.
Oh, yeah.
So when I'm coming off of something traumatic, you kind of have to start over and baby step it back up again until it starts becoming routine. And then something's going to happen that's going to knock you off. And you're going to have to start it all over again because your body's going to want to freak out and not do any of the things you're supposed to do for yourself. I want to be of service to be able to help others. I want to be who I needed when I was younger. There wasn't things out there for me to relate to in those kind of ways growing up.
I think you should consider that it's not just for people with chronic pain. I just want to say that it doesn't have to just be that, because a positive outlook is a positive outlook and mindset work is mindset work. And people are suffering in all sorts of ways. Another thing is you're going to have to explain to the audience how you caught yourself on fire. Because that was just a throwaway sentence. That's a big deal.
I know. So I don't recommend playing with fire to people, but it's something that I used to do. I've done fire blowing or breathing, depending on how you want to look at it, for like a decade. It was just something that my friends and I would do from time to time, and it was never a big deal. I never thought anything of it. It was just something fun and weird.
You light a big torch thing on fire and you inhale it or you blow on it. What do you do?
So you have a torch that's on fire and then you fill your mouth with fluid, flammable fluid, and then you blow it.
Oh.
And it makes it burst all over the place. Well, I'm not entirely sure what happened wrong. Like, it was really stormy and windy that day, so I think that the wind could have changed. It's possible that I had some of the fluid leak out of the sides of my mouth, but I definitely caught myself on fire and I had no idea I was on fire. Didn't even feel it.
But it was on your face and your neck?
Face, neck, and chest.
Okay.
I had 1st and 2nd degree burns.
And you didn't feel it because?
I'm not really sure why I didn't feel it. I know I have a fairly high pain tolerance.
That's a really high pain tolerance.
But I definitely didn't notice it was a thing until my friend, he's got safety training and everything, like took the rag to like smother it. He did that. And I was very confused because I was like, I had no idea what he was doing that close to me right at that moment. And then it was a little confusing. It was very embarrassing, honestly. Like, if not, like, that was, I think, my biggest element. My first thought was, oh my gosh, everybody just saw me epically fail. And then my second thought was, oh my God, I can smell my hair singed. And then I was like, oh my God, is my hair okay? And I didn't even think about my face or anything because I didn't feel like anything happened.
Mm-hmm.
My best friend, before I even went inside to like look and get things cleaned up, she came out on the dock with scissors to take off the singed bit of my hair because she knew that would freak me out more if I saw it. And then went in and my face was a little melted. I looked like one of the wax museum mannequins that had been put too close to the heater. It was a little melted. And then I saw it in the mirror and then was worried about scarring.
Yeah.
Because like doing photo shoots, I'll say it, I'm a little vain with my appearance, age of social media and all. So I was a little freaked out about that. Thankfully, it's mostly healed by now. I just have the very corners of my nose. That skin is so thin and takes so long to heal because, especially being somebody that's so animated, I move my nose when I talk and it just keeps breaking the same spot. So I have a little bit there. I have a little tiny bit of red on my neck and chest left, and they mostly show after I've taken like a bath, but they don't really show much the rest of the time. So I was very, very lucky. I babied the hell out of it. I kept covered in polysporin 3 to 4 times a day, like they told me to do. So very, very thankful that it healed. It was interesting because I was worried about the scarring and stuff, but at the same time, my friends were initially a little worried that I was going to get a little on the depressed side over it. But I oddly was able to kind of have this realization that I'm still me. I could cover, well, once it healed enough, I could cover with makeup for a little bit. But even if I couldn't, I was like, worst case scenario, I'm with my neck and chest, I was going to get zebra stripes tattooed over them.
That's so good.
A very interesting mental exercise in like, oh, okay, you're still you, whether you've lost feeling in your feet, whether you can't do this, whether you've got burns on your face, you're still going to be you.
So you still can't feel your feet?
I can feel hot, cold, and wet, but not much for pressure. I've been working with a physical therapist this last year, and about the last 6 months, she started doing a lot of work focusing on my feet and trying to rework nerve paths from my brain into my feet. And I have gotten some hints of sensation when someone's pushing really hard, but I didn't used to get that. So I'm getting weird little pulses on occasion now when I traditionally people could touch or do whatever with my feet. And I could only tell anybody was touching my feet based off of them being cold and people's hands usually being warmer than mine, but I couldn't feel pressure.
And so you walk with a cane?
I do places that I'm unfamiliar with or that have a lot of people that don't know my situation. At home and places that I go frequently, or if I'm with a friend somewhere frequently, I use touch points on furniture and walls just to kind of reacclimate my brain to let it know where I am in space. A lot of my friends know to stop at curbs or cracks in the sidewalk or, like just different places where they'll stop and they'll just put their arm up so that I can touch and kind of acclimate again. I've been working really hard on getting a little bit better with going places I go frequently without it.
What's the reason?
So with using a cane, especially for me, since I have joint issues through all of my joints, each time the cane hits the ground, it impacts my hand, my elbow, my shoulder. So every time that cane comes down, you're getting a bit of impact.
Wow.
And so it can take a toll doing it repeatedly.
I understand. Yeah.
It also messes with the gait of the way you would normally walk, which mine is off anyway, but it does make it even more unnatural than if I'm just kind of weeble wobbly without it. Things I try and keep in mind is that, it just takes baby steps moving forward. As long as you're moving forward, you're moving. Mm-hmm. And if you have something that sets you back, just be okay and know that bad days happen, but that when you have a good day, it's not going to matter. It's going to make it seem even more fulfilling that you were able to do something that you didn't think you'd be able to do or that you couldn't do. And there's a big element for me of not giving up, because I was told by doctors that I wouldn't get more than I had. And that was 8 years ago. And I mean, at that point, I was not doing half the stuff. Like I wasn't even driving at that point. And I do drive now with hand controls.
Oh, awesome.
If there's a will, there's a way. You can find it, ways to adapt things. You want to go do something, chances are you can call and make special arrangements to have people accommodate things so that you're able to participate in things. Not always, but it never hurts to ask for the help or the special needs that you have to be accommodated.
I love that. I can't tell you really how much I appreciate your attitude. The world would be a better place if everybody realized what you realize. Thank you for sharing all of that.
Oh, thank you. I was so nervous to do, I've not done a podcast before. I'm pretty open about things, but it's still there's a lot. It can be a little more vulnerable feeling throwing it all out there, but this was good. I do think people need to hear those kinds of things.
I think so too. Thank you. You're the perfect guest for this. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of Beneath Your Beautiful, hosted by Hara Allison. And thank you for your ratings and reviews. We'll be back next week with a new episode. Stay tuned.